Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for part 6 of my favorite books with disabled main characters in honor of Disability Pride Month, which, if you didn't know, is in July in the United States. So anyway, the first book on this list is called The Trouble with Robots. This story is a middle-grade contemporary following a pair of unlikely friends who are banding together to save their middle school's robotics program. This story is absolutely so excellent and it's so good, but in case you're wondering how this book constitutes for this list, it's because one of the main characters, the bisexual one to be specific, not to be confused with the asexual main character, is autistic. I don't know if that made any sense at all, but basically the autism representation is excellent. The queer representation is also excellent. This book is absolutely so good. And I love both main characters so much because the characters are such well-developed, distinct human people. The plot is so engaging and so intriguing. The friendships are so lovely and so well done. The robotics elements are so interesting and so well done. I'm so excited for the author's next book next year. I have forgotten everything about it, but I'm so excited for it because their writing in this one was so good and so well done. This book is absolutely so underrated and it's so good and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Unseelie. This story is a YA fantasy that follows a young autistic main character who's looking for the truth about her past. This story is absolutely so excellent and it's so well done. First of all, the autism representation was so good and I truly felt so seen and understood by the main character and by her actions and motives and emotions and the ways in which she converses with the other characters. You know what I mean? If you didn't know, I'm autistic too, and it felt so validating and refreshing to read a book with a main character like me, especially in a fantasy setting, because I think that this is the first book that I've ever read that is truly fantasy, not historical fantasy or any of the other subgenres of fantasy, just fantasy by itself with an autistic main character. Literally, this book is so good and I'm so excited to read a sequel, which I believe comes out next year if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, aside from the great disability representation, the other characters were so well developed and so distinct. I love the sister relationship so much. The plot was so intriguing and so engaging. The world building was so cool and absolutely so atmospheric. The setting was so unique and so nifty and just so well done. This author is so unbelievably talented and I love the writing so much. This book is so good and it deserves all of its hype and so much more. So anyway, with that said, I absolutely love this book and I would highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Dear Mothman. This story is a middle-grade contemporary following a young transgender autistic main character who's navigating grieving his best friend's death, and his best friend was one of the only other transgender kids in their class. This story is absolutely so excellent and it's so good and I loved it. I know I've praised Robin Gow recently in the past and I'll do it again because the writing is so excellent and it's so lyrical and I love how they write free verse so effortlessly. Literally, their writing is so good and it never isn't. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. But basically, this book is incredible and it's excellent and it deserves all of its hype and so much more. The queer representation was spot on and top notch. The disability representation was spot on and top notch. The friendships are so lovely and so wonderful. The plot is so engaging and so intriguing. This book is absolutely so good and it's so underrated and it deserves so much more hype. It's excellent, it's amazing, and it's just so top notch. You know what I mean? Anyway, overall, I really enjoyed it. So with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Good Different. This story is a middle-grade contemporary in verse, and it follows a young main character who's navigating her new autism diagnosis. This story is one of my 5-star favorites of this year because it's unbelievably relatable. As a person who is autistic and was late diagnosed, I spent a great deal of my life feeling so misunderstood And when I got my autism diagnosis, suddenly everything was clear. I got so much clarity, and I suddenly felt so understood when I discovered that part of myself. So reading about a main character who went through a very similar journey felt so refreshing and validating. This book is so good. And I know that there are so many young autistic people out there, especially autistic women of color and other marginalized intersectional people out there, if that makes any sense, who can feel so seen and heard and understood by this story. This book is absolutely so excellent. The disability representation was spot on. The plot was so intriguing and so engaging. The friendships were iconic and incredible. The characters were so well developed and so distinct. This book is amazing. The writing is so lyrical and it's so pretty. So with that said, overall, I absolutely love this book and I would highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Jude Saves the World. This story is a middle grade contemporary following a young, bisexual, plus-size, non-binary main character who also has ADHD, who is navigating identity and friendship. This story is absolutely so excellent, and it's so well done. Again, why is nobody talking about this book except for literally me? This book is so excellent, and it's so well done. First of all, the queer representation was top-notch and excellent. This author is so unbelievably talented, and I will read anything that they write next because literally the writing was so well done, and I was hooked from the beginning to the end. The characters are so well developed and so distinct. The friendships made so much sense, and they're so lovely and so wonderful. The disability representation was awesome and excellent and just so good. This book is so excellent, and it's so stunning and rich and just awesome and just so well done and well paced in every single element. So anyway, with all that said, this book is so excellent and it deserves so much more hype. So with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Second Chance Summer. This story is a middle grade contemporary following a pair of former best friends who meet up again at a summer camp and try to reunite their friendship. This book is absolutely so good, and I really, really enjoyed it. One of the main characters, Maddie specifically, is Jewish, plus size, and has dyspraxia. Did I pronounce that correctly? I should have Googled the correct pronunciation before I tried saying it in a YouTube video, but we all make mistakes. Anyway, this story is absolutely so excellent and so well done. First of all, both main characters are such wonderful, excellent, well-developed, distinct main characters, and their perspectives made so much sense, and I love them so much, and I love their friendship so much as well. I loved learning about it in the past, in flashbacks, and also in the present timeline, if that makes any sense. The plot was so engaging and so intriguing. The camp setting was so atmospheric and so well done. Literally, this book is so good. And again, it's so underrated, and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list is called Will on the Inside. This story is a middle grade contemporary following a young main character who's navigating his new chronic illness diagnosis, specifically Crohn's disease. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not completely sure. The H throws me off. But anyway, this story is absolutely so excellent and it's so good. And I know I talked about this book rather recently in my last video, so I apologize if my review is rather redundant. But anyway, this book is absolutely so excellent and it's so good. First of all, the disability representation was so good and it felt so necessary and timely and important. I love learning about chronic illnesses through the eyes of young people. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. The characters were so well developed and so distinct. The friendships were so lovely and so wonderful. Literally, this book is so amazing and it deserves so much more hype. And I will gladly support this author again in the future because their writing was so good and so well done. And like I said, the disability representation was so good and so excellent. So anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, happy Disability Pride Month. As a disabled person, I celebrated by making this video. So if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the snail emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching and subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!